All right, get ready, because we're diving deep today into a legend that's as chilling as a Minnesota winter, the Wendigo. You ever feel that shiver down your spine, walking through a dark forest? That's the kind of primal fear we're tapping into today.
And it's more than just a spooky campfire story. The Wendigo is deeply woven into the history and culture of several Algonquin-speaking tribes, a warning, a symbol, and a chilling reflection of humanity's dark side.
We've got a fascinating mix lined up for you today. Native American legends, passed down through generations, historical accounts from those brave enough to venture into Wendigo territory, and even some modern interpretations that might make you rethink that late-night walk in the woods.
Before we get lost in the encounters, let's start with the Wendigo's origins. Imagine the Great Lakes region and northern Minnesota, home to the Ojibwe and Cree tribes.
A landscape where survival is a constant battle against the elements.
Yeah, exactly. And in this harsh environment, where every decision could mean life or death, emerges the Wendigo.
A cautionary figure, embodying the very things that could tear a community apart.
That's right. Imagine a harsh winter, dwindling supplies, and the unthinkable choice, starve or...
Okay, already getting chills.
Well, that's where the Wendigo comes in. It represents the ultimate taboo, cannibalism. Consuming human flesh was seen as a transgression against nature, a threat to the very fabric of society.
And the descriptions alone, enough to fuel nightmares. This is no cuddly forest creature. We're talking a skeletal figure, towering, emaciated, skin stretched tight over bones. Imagine its face, blackened by frostbite, eyes burning with an insatiable hunger. And that hunger is always for one thing: human flesh.
And here's the terrifying part. In many legends, the Wendigo actually grows larger with each person it consumes.
So it's like a horrifying spiral with no end.
It is, and that's the brilliance of the legend. It speaks to our deepest fears, our primal instinct for survival, and the potential for that instinct to warp into something monstrous.
It makes you think about the lengths people will go to when faced with desperation, a chilling reminder of the darkness that exists within us all, lurking just beneath the surface.
Now, important to note, the specifics of the Wendigo legend differ between tribes. Some see it as a possessing spirit, capable of twisting humans into these ravenous cannibals, while others believe it's a distinct, monstrous being.
But regardless of the form, the message is clear. Beware the darkness within.
And that warning became even more pronounced when European settlers and fur traders started venturing into these untamed territories. In the 1700s and 1800s, imagine stepping into this vast, unknown wilderness with only the whispers of legends and the warnings of native guides to guide you.
Talk about a recipe for paranoia. Every creak of a branch, every howl in the distance, makes you wonder if the Wendigo was lurking nearby.
Absolutely. And those fears were often fueled by the indigenous people who knew the land best. They would warn settlers about areas associated with Wendigo sightings.
So it's not just some abstract myth, it's woven into their understanding of this landscape.
Precisely. Let me share a chilling example. In the 1830s, a fur trader near Lake Superior documented an encounter his Ojibwe guide had with a Wendigo near Knife River. A first-hand account. It gives us a glimpse into how real and terrifying this creature was to the people who lived alongside it.
Okay, so we've got these ancient legends, chilling descriptions, and now first-hand accounts from people who claimed to have encountered the Wendigo. Where does myth end and reality begin? It's a question that leads us into some unsettling territory. Wendigo psychosis.
Ah, yes. That's where the historical mystery truly deepens. We'll delve into that fascinating and controversial topic. In our next segment, welcome back. We've been exploring the Wendigo, its origins, its role in Algonquin culture, and how its legend impacted those early European settlers.
Yeah, last time we were talking about how the Wendigo wasn't just some creature, but like a presence woven into the landscape. But it gets even more interesting when we start blurring the lines between myth and reality.
You're talking about Wendigo psychosis.
Exactly. This idea that the Wendigo wasn't just a mythical monster, but that its legend could somehow manifest in a very real psychological condition.
And this wasn't just folklore. Psychiatrists and anthropologists, including some right here in Minneapolis, began seriously studying this phenomenon. They called it Wendigo psychosis, a culture-bound syndrome, specific to certain Algonquin groups.
And the symptoms were as terrifying as the creature itself.
Right, absolutely. Imagine this, an overwhelming craving for human flesh, coupled with this paralyzing fear of turning into a cannibal.
It's like trapped between primal urges and the deepest societal taboos.
Yeah, it's a horrific paradox.
Like the legend itself is infecting the mind, turning fear into a self-fulfilling prophecy.
And there's a tragic historical case. That gets brought up a lot. Swift runner, a Plains Cree trapper, from Alberta back in 1878. During a brutal winter, faced with starvation, he did the unthinkable. He resorted to cannibalism, taking the lives of his own family to survive.
A story that chills you to the bone. Was it truly Wendigo psychosis? A cultural delusion made real? Or was it simply a desperate act of survival? That broke a man's spirit.
It's a debate that continues to this day. Some researchers argue that Wendigo psychosis was never a genuine condition, that it was a misinterpretation of cultural beliefs and behaviors by Western observers.
But others say there's compelling eyewitness accounts from both indigenous communities and outsiders. That suggests something very real was happening.
Right.
A reminder of how extreme circumstances can push the human psyche to its limits.
Absolutely.
How that line between sanity and madness can blur when survival is on the line.
And this brings us to a figure who bridges the gap between myth and reality. Jack Fiddler, an Ojibwe chief and medicine man. He was renowned for defeating Wendigos, often by taking the drastic measure of killing those believed to be afflicted.
So he walked a very difficult path, navigating the complexities of both the spiritual and physical world.
He did.
And his actions raised some complex ethical questions that we're still grappling with today. How do we define sanity within different cultural contexts?
Yeah.
And when does intervention become necessary, even if it means taking a life?
These are important questions to consider.
These historical accounts really bring the legend of the Wendigo to life. It's not just a creature of myth, it's a shadow that hangs over history, shaping people's beliefs, actions, even their very survival.
And that brings us to a fascinating question. If the Wendigo was so tied to the hardships of the past, why does it continue to haunt our present?
You're right. It's not just an ancient legend anymore. People claim to see the Wendigo even today.
They do.
So what are we talking about here? Blurry photos, campfire stories, or something more?
It's more than just campfire tales. We're talking first-hand accounts, detailed descriptions, encounters that leave people shaken to their core, and those modern encounters are what we'll be exploring next. So
what are we talking about here? Blurry photos, campfire stories, or something more? More than just campfire tales. We're talking first-hand accounts, detailed descriptions, encounters that leave people shaken.
Okay, give me an example.
Well, there was a chilling account from the 1990s in the Boundary Waters area. A group of campers reported seeing a gaunt skeletal figure lurking in the woods. They described its movements as unnatural, almost like gliding through the trees.
Sounds like something straight out of a horror movie. But is there any evidence to back up these claims?
Evidence is tricky when it comes to creatures of legend. But what's interesting is that many of these modern sightings occur in places deeply associated with the Wendigo legend, areas where the stories have been passed down for generations, where the fear is almost ingrained in the landscape itself.
So like the legend itself is shaping people's perceptions.
It's a possibility. Our minds are powerful things, and the stories we tell ourselves can definitely influence our experiences.
And then there was that sighting near Superior National Forest, back in 2015, right? Right. Hikers reported seeing a tall, emaciated figure with glowing eyes. The details, they spread like wildfire across online forums and even made their way into local news reports.
It definitely reignited that public fascination with the Wendigo. So why does this creature continue to capture our imaginations centuries after its origins? I mean, we live in a world of technology, scientific advancements. You'd think these old legends would fade away.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But there's something about the Wendigo that resonates on a deeper level. It taps into our primal fears, the fear of the unknown, the fear of losing ourselves to our baser instincts.
It's like a reminder that even in our modern world, there are still things we can't explain, forces we don't fully understand.
Exactly. And perhaps that's why the Wendigo continues to hold such power. It embodies those mysteries, those shadows that linger at the edge of our understanding.
This whole deep dive has been a journey into the heart of a truly chilling legend, exploring its historical roots, its psychological impact, and even its presence in the modern world. What's the takeaway here? What can the Wendigo ultimately teach us?
I think the Wendigo serves as a powerful reminder of the darkness that exists within us all, the potential for greed, selfishness, and even violence to consume us, especially in times of hardship and desperation. But it also reminds us of the importance of community, empathy, and connection to something greater than ourselves.
So it's a cautionary tale, but also a call to action.
Precisely. It's a reminder to be mindful of our choices, to cultivate the values that prevent us from becoming the monster, and to never underestimate the power of stories to shape our understanding of the world.
I think I'll be sticking to well-lit trails from now on.
Yeah.
Especially once those winter nights start rolling in. Thanks for taking us on this deep dive. It's been an unforgettable journey into the heart of a truly chilling legend.
The pleasure was all mine. And remember, sometimes the most terrifying stories are the ones that teach us the most valuable lessons that can